that was here in town.
Episcopal, I didn't remember.
I thought that was what she told us, and that was her dining room.
And it was rolled down
Yeah.
a block.
And you could see, by going into her dining room, you could see that it actually, it had the appearance of having been a very small church. And,
Transom, I guess. The way
yeah, yeah.
When I was over in Powellville, they had a number of churches that had moved around from place to place on log rollers. They had like mules, that would pull, and they put them on log rollers. They had one that had moved from one town to another, and another one that moved from one town to another, and just the church on the move.
Yeah, there you go.
Was this in Claiborne?
No, that was a trip that we made to New York State.
Okay.
That's my mother's family name, and I just took a picture of it.
Oh.
One other thing, the real estate agent that Ralph was dealing with was a man by the name of Bruce Duncan. His father had been an admiral, and I think he was one of the playboys of Talbot County. Because when my husband came down for the first time, he came by himself and hooked up with Duncan. And Duncan invited him to go out partying at night. Well, you all know Ralph is not a party person. But I once asked another real estate agent that I happen to know, a husband of one of my very good friends, we're in book club together, and when I mentioned Bruce's name to him, all he did was laugh.
He was a party guy.
Yeah. But let's see, where the Frocks live is where Mrs. Sinclair, Sherry Schultz's mother lived. She lived there. And then the Sayers house was that was a wreck. That was in very, very bad shape when we were down here. We looked at it, my husband looked at it with the idea that he would buy it and fix it up, and I said, no, not going through. He built our house in New Jersey himself with the help of friends and relatives and that sort of thing, but he did it himself, and I said, no more do-it-yourself houses. So that's
Was this little church active at that time?
oh yes. The church was open every Sunday. They had service here every Sunday, and then it reached a point, and I can't tell you what year it was, but it reached a point where the 4 churches in the charge, I think, were just too much for the then minister. And they decided that Claiborne Church had the smallest congregation, and that would be the one that they closed. And I can tell you that I was there at the last service, and there were 8 of us there, and 4 of us were Catholic. We happened to be friends with Nancy and Helen, and we kind of came to, Helen loved this church. I mean, it was her whole life, and we came to give her moral support. But that was the last service here, it was 8.
There was a period of time, and there was a Methodist bishop who, I won't mention his name because I was actually named after him. But who, in misguided logic, had engaged in a campaign to combine churches, you see. It made sense to him, rather you would save money on charge. So you would, technically, we could get the 3 remaining churches all together and meet in one place and fill one church up and then save money, that way. But it doesn't work that way. So the first church that I went to over in Powellville, well, I had 3 churches, but my third service at the Powellville church, it's interesting because it's 2 churches side by side, 2 Methodist churches side by side, and now it's linked. There's a Sunday school building in between them. But it had been a Methodist Protestant and a Methodist Episcopal church. And when they joined together and became Methodist churches, the one had, I went back in the records, had an average Sunday attendance of 105, and the other one had 125.
Well, that's good.
And they continued that way. And so then during the episcopacy of this particular bishop, they decided that the conference decided they were going to have both services, the 9 and 11 o'clock service at the one church, and the other church would be renovated and made into the dining hall. And on the records, the year before they did this, there was the 9 o'clock service, average was 105, the 11 o'clock service average 125. And the next year, there was only one service. It was not two, and that one service was 87.
Interesting.
They went from 230 people to 87.
87.
So not only did the one, they lost all the ones who were offended that you turned their church into a dining facility. They lost a fair number of the other ones. Well, they had the one that had become a dining facility, they had a gathering, of the people there. And I said, I read some scripture, and I said, if we really read Jesus right, he said, if you love me, feed my sheep. And I said, really, White's Chapel is doing more, closer, Galilean ministry of Jesus today than it ever did in the past, because you have a lot of big meals here. And so anyway, the leader of the group from the White family, she said, Reverend Moore, that was a valiant effort and everything, but you're not going to convince any of us. But that was what happened. It was probably during the same period that this person went around and said, why have all these little churches around? And they actually took action to close them up.
Well, it was after we moved down here permanently. I know that. I can't tell you the year.
When we first came here in '92, my recollection, and shortly thereafter, is that they had services here, but not every Sunday.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
It tapered down.
Tapered down, and then it eventually closed. And the occasional Baptist camp or something was here. I think it was lent out by them, but really it was probably mid to late '90s when it was totally, yeah.
There was actually a service of, the only word that I could think of would be decommissioned. There was a service where someone came, not the minister, I'm thinking someone higher, it might have even been a bishop. Someone came and literally decommissioned the church.
Yeah, I think in the Catholic Church they call it deconsecration.
Yeah.
Which is,
Yeah.
same thing, decommission, deconsecration.
And let me tell you, this is going on back where I came from, where they are combining.
Out in Cleveland or Cincinnati, I always confuse them, they're closing 50 Catholic churches, basically halving the city. That's, lack of priests, economics and all that, yeah. And lack of congregation, of course, and that'd be the main thing.
Well, one of my lay leaders, her husband is Catholic, and he told me the other day, I had movies for the children over at Bosman Saturday afternoon. I had a movie called Space Buddies about puppy dogs that take an adventure and they stow away on a spaceship going to the moon. I mean, that's the kind of thing that little kids like. And I had another movie, a Firehouse Dog or something it was called. But at any rate, my lay leader's husband was there doing something with the letters